fans. Saw an ad in an old G.I. Joe comic book a couple of days ago for Masters of the Universe, The Power of He-Man for the Intellivision and the Atari 2600. I never knew that this game existed. It's been pretty wild going back in time learning about some of these old games or comics or shows that existed back then, and there just was no internet to find out about it. And it was really wild to find out a couple of years ago that there was a G1 Transformers game in Japan, Mystery of Convoy. There was a computer game before that as well. I was a huge He-Man fan back then. Loved the animated series, loved the toys as well. I think I would have been all over this game if I had ever seen it. If I had ever seen He-Man with his Sword of Power and the Wind Raider on the box there at the old Kmart, I would have asked Mom to get it for me, but as it is, I don't recall ever seeing it. I had to hunt it down and give it a try, and I'd like to share a playthrough with a question mark. I'm not all that good at these video game playthroughs. My reflexes aren't too good, and so I'm just gonna try to have some fun here. And for folks who don't know this game at all, or even if you do remember it fondly, maybe hearing these sounds will take you back, and maybe you can get a good laugh at watching me try to fumble my way through the game. So let's load up for the Atari 2600 or the Intellivision, I guess. Masters of the Universe, The Power of He-Man. And is that... he's transforming. It's interesting that he's topless. He's not wearing a shirt, and then he transforms into He-Man. So it's just I guess a topless Prince Adam with a great tan, and the harness appears on him, and the theme song is playing, some of it anyway. As far as Atari 2600 music goes, I think it's actually really good. It's about 8-bit NES quality. Here's the actual gameplay. You get to play in a Wind Raider, and there are enemies below you who are shooting at you. Both, I guess, laser gun as well as, is that a boomerang or something? Everything is trying to kill you in this game. If you've never played the game before and you're going to try it out for the first time like I did because you're just curious about this He-Man game, this vintage Atari He-Man game, don't let the first minute turn you off from playing this game, because there's quite a few old games that are just just brutal, like that old G.I. Joe game for the Atari 2600. Although I am going to try to hunt down a paddle one day, because I've been told it's much more enjoyable with a paddle. But this game, just absolutely frustrating and not fun in the least the first few minutes playing it. But as you learn what to do, as you learn the reflexes, the controls are really, really weird at first. And like so many video games, that death theme. Da, 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 da. So, who is that down there? Is that Ninjor? And who's this? They all look the same except different colors. Just absolutely brutal. As far as I can tell, if you can shoot, you gotta dodge the lasers, and if you can shoot the boomerang, it allows the Wind Raider to drop bombs. And you can drop a bomb on the minions of Skeletor, the evil forces of Skeletor. You can either drop a bomb on them, or you can create a hole, which seems to be how it mostly works. You drop a hole, and then he runs into the hole, and that particular enemy is vanquished, I guess, safely dropping into a hole until Webstore can rappel down there and pull him out. The lasers are just brutal. There's a certain way you can dodge them, but the problem is, as you're dodging the lasers, when you turn the Wind Raider in the opposite direction of the boomerang, if you're lucky, you can hit some of the lasers with your bomb. the boomerang will come at you if you face away from it. And it's not a side-scroller, or not like a perpetually scrolling side-scroller. You actually control where you go. So there is a technique to going back in the opposite direction in order to dodge the laser and to bring the boomerang a little closer to you. If it's too far away, you can't hit it. So yeah, I'm doing horribly here, and I'm gonna do an edit here just so you don't have to watch me do this for a half hour. So skipping ahead here, there are so many villains that you have to defeat, and eventually you get to Castle Black Skull. It's Gray Skull in black. And then the second stage, the final stage, it's just two different ways to play that keep repeating over and over. But this is cool that there's an actual different play method here. It's not just the Wind Raider flying around in this game. You get to play as He-Man, and you can actually draw the sword to block, is it laser bolts or magic bolts? That Skeletor is shooting at you on the other side. There's a lot of dodging to do here. You got to not get hit by the lasers. You got to squeeze through the gaps in these walls that are moving towards you. And if you can get through one, you're lucky if you can get through another one. Once you get through both of them, you got to just run up to Skeletor and touch him. And once you do, that's the end of the game, I guess, but it resets because these old Atari games are all about getting the highest score you can possibly get. It doesn't look like you can die here. It looks like you do lose points every time you get hit, though. So the points that you racked up during the Wind Raider part of the game is basically your life, or your lives. It's almost unlimited. You have so many points here, you can get hit so many times. And it's just a waiting game. You have to wait for these two things to line up properly so that you can sneak through and get Skeletor. And the problem is once you get through them, even if you do get through them, he might blast you. So this looks like this might be an opening right here, and game over. And you're rewarded with He-Man holding his magical sword aloft. Nice little graphic of the sword sparkling, shimmering, and some cool multicolor action going on the border. Couple notes of the theme, and that's it. The game resets itself, and it's time to do the whole thing all over again. I think I'm good for now and forever, quite frankly. Cool to try this game. It's always awesome. I love the new games that feel retro, like Streets of Rage 4. But nothing beats an old game that's 30, 40 years old. Trying it out and even beating it, making it to the final level. Thank goodness for save points with modern emulators, because I can't imagine being able to go through this whole thing, beating all those enemies and getting all the way to the end to get to Skeletor. That's a young man's game, I believe. But still pretty cool to play a vintage game like that. And once you get past the initial frustration of figuring out how to dodge things, how to defeat the enemies, it is not that different from something like Pac-Man or Donkey Kong. There's a pattern. And you just learn the pattern and you repeat it over and over as best as you can. So that was the power of He-Man for Atari 2600 and the Intellivision. If you have a memory of this game from back in the day on either system, feel free to share it below. If you know of any other forgotten treasures of yesteryear for properties that had video games that not many people know about, feel free to throw that out there too. And to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Nerdmas Day.